Good morning, America, on this great, glorious day here. It is now the July 4th celebration all across the land as we celebrate the 247th anniversary of that Declaration of Independence.
Well, that's great, Jim. And what do you want to tell the people today?
Well, I think we want to go into what the Declaration of Independence was, what's going on, and how we can keep that republic that we have almighty and clean and clear so that the individual sovereign and the right for happiness, pursuit of liberty, and all the other things, let's salad it all up because you know what? Let's mix it up today because I want to break down, really what the text of that is all about.
All about
life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Let's mix this up because you know what? It's under attack, EW. People don't seem to understand the premises or the main tenets of what it was all about.
Well, can you explain this to the people today?
Because everything, the greatest document ever written, really in the last quarter millennia, is all based on the laws of nature. And nature's God entitled them with a decent respect for the opinions of what mankind requires, so they should declare the cause which impel them to the separation of tyranny and what we have today. And I got to say that, we have a very good opportunity now with the people in the rise, the people now thinking, hey, look, it's a movement of the people. We have to keep our Western culture going. I think you see some good signs over there in Greece, in Finland, and now I think you're going to see a rise up now in France too that, hey, wait a second, you come here, you got to assimilate and join us and keep a Western civilization and the freedom of the individual sovereign alive in the Judeo-Christian ethic that has brought prosperity unlike anything else in throughout all of civilization.
Well, that sounds very interesting, Jim, but what does that really mean for us common folk?
Our common folk, well, you like to be able to think, do, and say what you want, right?
Well, of course, Jim. Everybody wants those rights.
And, well, everybody does. But, did you know that's the exception right in the world throughout all of history and even most of America, most of the world until after World War II? I mean, we really, our way of thinking, our way of life was great. Now it's back under attack by Red China.
You mean like the Equal Rights Amendment?
Equal rights. I'm not talking about their equal outcome philosophy. And that's what you see here now in California. They say the PRC's the People's Republic of China. No, that's the People's Republic of California. They want everybody to have the same outcome. And that if you are underpaid, if you're not making the average median wage, whatever your job is, the understanding is that you should be supplemented by people that are working extra hard so you all have the same outcome. These people don't even realize that they're actually communists. And that's what you have now with this reparation movement that's taken center stage here in the public discourse of the once great state of California.
But it's the Golden State, Jim. They're really beautiful people out there, right? All those movie stars. And
the
oil wells.
That's right. And in fact, Hollywood will get Los Angeles developed because of those two things in reverse order, by the way. The well preceded the movies, but they're absolutely right. And we are now standing here in an edifice that was built by a great movie magnate, Mr. Shank, right by here by the big church, the Emmanuel Church, right here. And this was like the place in the 1920s, named after a very famous movie star who did well until the Speakies came around. That movie, All That Jazz, in 1927 by our friends over Warner Brothers. And then people had to speak. And what happened was she had a pit squeak voice. And you know what? That's what happened. So you're out. And now people today have been muzzled as well. Their individual sovereign, their thoughts have been muzzled by big tech, the self-censorship. And now we see people using events for political advantage to do this. It's pretty funny. They go after the great Donald J. Trump for something he didn't do. He had 1 million people at his rallies. Nobody causes any damage. But when he got inaugurated, there was all kinds of bombs blowing up and stuff. He didn't authorize anything on that January 6th. There was a bunch of people that went down there. Yes, they created stuff. But those individuals have to be responsible for their actions. But they're making that event to turn the public against a certain party, much like what happened in 1933, a month after Hitler got in there with the Reichstag, blamed somebody else. They burned it down. They said, well, we got to seize full control because the whole country's at risk, and they made it illegal for any other party to be around, and they made himself supreme prime. This happened a month after he was made chancellor in 1933. Now, we have a similar issue here where people want to take state control. Now, we cannot have that because the government is only there by the consent of the governed. And so I want to get right back to where we're at now with the full-on Declaration.
Break it down for the people, Jim. Break it down.
Well, how does this sound to you? Let's read this today. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which are connected with one another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect for the opinion of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to that separation. We're kind of at that point now with each other because, now you have a tyranny where they're basically telling you and dictating you with the help of big tech, the media, and academia, all one big, behemoth of culture markets of how it has to be. And if you step out of line just a little bit, you will be punished and you will be canceled. So this is the antithetical to everything of what our republic was founded upon. Now, this is what we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Okay, thank God for the decisions there at the Supreme Court that everybody equal. You can't give people preferential for race or all these other things. And now the left is saying that the court, for some reason, was abusing their authoritarian. They need to be looked into. Because the left didn't get what they want, they throw a temper tantrum, a little tissy fit, because their spoiled little children used to getting everything they want. And when they don't get what they want, they freak out. They have little kids who don't know anything.
Well, Jim, I think most politicians are like that.
Well, then that's why we have to get rid of politicians and put real people in public service.
Okay, Jim, you tell them.
Well, I think that's what they say, because that all men are created and they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Okay, you can't play with those rights that your so-called politicians that you say are doing these things, and I kind of tend to agree with that. That among these are life. That means you have a life, it's your life. People have life, they have the right to do what they need to do. Liberty. And that means you got the freedom to choose what you want to say, your expression. This is backed up by the First Amendment, which is the right to what? Free speech, assembly, religion, to actually protest, right?
Bear arms?
That's the second one. That backs up the First Amendment. Very good, but that's not the First Amendment. It's the second. You know that. And the pursuit of happiness, that you have the right to go off and do that, as long as you don't impede other people's rights. But that's what the government's doing, and they work for us. How bizarre and perverse is that, EW? That can no longer be. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from, and I say from, the consent of the governed. That's you, the people. They don't have any powers unless you give that to them. And for too long, the people sat on their fat behinds, worrying about whatever else, playing on the computer, thinking about all the instant gratification and pleasures in the land of Sodom and Gomorrah, and I understand that. Heck, I even went through it episode 2. I gave it up to my sisters and brothers out there in the terms of, hey, look, I had too much fun with all the girls when I was a young man, but now I am whole. I am sacred, and I'm bound to one woman. And I think you should try that too, people. It might be good for you. Anyway.
Monogamy, Jim?
Yeah, monogamy. And so anyway, that these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers.
What are you laughing about, Jim? That's
from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, which is what we have now, that they've gone into debt, they've taken control, overreach in every area of your life, and that's where we're at now. It is the right of the people then to alter, and that's what they do, or to abolish it. I think we alter it through election, through the process, but we be proactive, and you may hold them accountable. It's not a matter of just voting and then let them do whatever they want. Yes, we're a republic where we have representatives. We're not a direct democracy, but we got to institute new game rules so it ensures that this document lives true, EW.
Well, that sounds right, okay.
So what we're going to do. I'm going to get into those solutions later, but we're going to read this a little bit longer because this is basically an introduction. This is kind of the preamble.
It's no laughing matter. You
outlines
be
the
serious.
general philosophy of the government, which is shifted now to this Marxist cultural way, which they've inundated young children.
Inundated, Jim.
Inundated?
Not
Well,
indicted.
I don't date. Inundate.
This is not a laughing matter, Jim. It's very serious.
That's it. Yeah, that inundate, inculcate, and influence our youth, the gullible people on the left that are emotionally driven with their trained and influenced limbic glands that make them emotional reaction to its symbols. This is the technology that the left has mastered in the last several decades. We should talk about that later. But I want to get back to this. It is the right of the people to ultra-abolish that government when it does that, and institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. I'm not talking about the trans cause that sort of overtook all the general discussion. Transient causes. So people's desires, their illusions of grandeur, these government officials who want to do what they want, these are their little causes of the day, and that they think these should substitute the might and the history and the wisdom of our republic and what's worked so well for centuries now. That's what it says. So we don't not allow, prudence will not allow that governments, well established and that have worked can just be changed for light. So we've got to make things charged. So that's why we have the amendment process. So anyway, and all clinical experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. So people are sheeple. We got to change people from being sheeple to being people again. And that's what's happened in America. They be going down the sheeple lane because that's what happens when you get fat. You get well taken care of. You're on easy street. And you don't even have the will to go out and meet. Well, I tell you what. You want to keep living and have plenty to eat, you come follow Tuscaloosa Jim and his solution set. Now, but with a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under the absolute despotism. It is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. And that's why we got to re-elect Donald J. Trump back to the throne of American presidency. Or my boy Vivek, my fellow Lombard, he is somebody else. He's a young man, but he's got the right principles in mind. Even though he may be a Hindu, that don't matter. He believes in God. He believes in the principle, the beauty of happiness. The family is the institution that keeps it all together. That the U.S. Constitution is the greatest guarantor of human freedom in the history of the world. And everything else there, you could look it up yourself. He's a smart young man. New blood, new youth, a new vibrance with good ideas and can listen to other people, such as your Tuscaloosa Jim, to rebrand and use the tools to bring up the wealth, the prosperity of all people. And we all rise together. And we keep our individuality and our rights, and we be the most incredible economy and lead the world once again, because the world needs us more than ever now.
You tell, Jim.
Well, hey, yeah. Well, such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies and now states, and now the people, and such is now the necessity which constitutes or constrains them to alter their former systems of government. I'm not talking about way back when. I'm talking about the system of government now, where they think they can basically legislate from the bench, right? You got people in the executive branch who overreach and take out the powers of Congress and impose their will upon people when it wasn't ever consented upon them to do such. So, the history of President King Britain, or you could call now King Biden, even though he can't really speak in fluent sentences, and basically it's being handled by a bunch of people in the hard left wing, have repeated injuries and usurpations, which they've done, and they've really accelerated that during COVID, all having direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states, and they've done that too. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. And that's what the media is supposed to do, but it has not. It has concealed these facts from the people. They don't know what really happened with the COVID virus, how that came to be, why the lockdowns, why did we shut down the schools for our young children when the evidence was ample that they were not at risk. We have the biggest public policy blunder in the history of America. We have stunted a generation of growth. I think it's all designed to keep an equal outcome among the world. bend and break America's back, rise up these other countries so it's all one world order that our friends on the left, worldwide Maoist communists can take over the whole thing.
Okay, Jim, slow down. You got to get ahead of yourself.
Well, he, and I'm talking about the left, has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. So they don't like any laws that they don't like, and if you try to do anything, they'll just block it all. That's what they do about the energy policies and these things like that. They want to control what you can do. They control the regulation. Why do so many companies leave America to China? It wasn't because of the labor cost. It was the regulations. That's what's hindered our growth. That's what's hindered this economy. We're a pipsqueak two-cylinder little out-of-tune engine when we can be a badass V8 once again. God forgive me.
Jim, got to be careful about that
Yeah,
language.
well, you should be talking there, EW, about that last session. Well, yes. So, we have to refuse to set a laws that are wholesome and necessary for the public good. The public good, the laws would be to break down your control and your spending, put all that money so people can put in the retirement, the tools are there so they can really get a good return on their Social Security, and that money can be invested in American companies will reindustrialize, so we're not dependent on foreign trade, although it's a good thing at some level, some reasonable level, not dependent where 95% of our medicines are made outside the United States. That's no good.
That's no good. That's no good, Jim.
90% of our consumer electronics and cell phones and our communications made outside. That was all because of the regulation and the lack of fortitude and leadership in this country. All the while, people in America, they don't know that they're just living and working their way. They've been fooled. They've been fooled into believing that this comfort life was their right. Now it's going to be taken away from them. And it's going to be controlled by a world government, a globalist government that has no respect for the individual sovereign. It's all about control and people feeling that they're part of a group, that group rights will transcend individual rights. Antithetical again, once again, to the United States of America. So, and this Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, everything we fought for and died for. So, he has refused to pass other laws that accommodation for large districts of people unless people would relinquish their right of representation in the legislature, a right of inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. So that's basically you give up your rights and get free stuff. That's what's going on now throughout
Entitlement.
Entitlements. Oh, well, I'll vote for that idiot. I know they're dumb. I know he or she's got a very low IQ, but as long as they keep giving me free stuff, I don't care. And by the way, they do a good job of pointing the blame at that white boy that made all that money. He must have stole from me. It's mine. I deserve that. Even though I didn't work for it, it doesn't matter. I've been oppressed, and I never got the chance. That's the kind of mentality we have, which is a total antithesis to the meritocracy, which we have to get back at. Anybody who ever went out and risked it and achieved the American dream would fight for that dream because they would know the truth is that you have to go out and make and manifest for yourself, and that's what the pursuit of happiness is all about. And studies have been done. If you go out and earn it for a certain level of wealth rather than just giving it to you, you are many times more happier, faithful, and live longer and wonderful lives. And you set a better example for your children and grandchildren. So, you pass along the legacy that keeps America galvanized and strong. Yeah.
Okay, Jim, I think that makes sense.
Well, so now it goes into the grievance part and the indictment. I'll save you all the things that they go off about, everything about that, about the King of England. But, but I got to say, in conclusion, I think it's, it's very interesting, because in many ways, we warn people from time to time attempts by the legislation to extend the unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. That's going on now today, 247 years later. We've reminded them of circumstances of our immigration and sentiment here. Nothing really happened here. The opposite party to these cultural Marxists have done so. They're so intimidated, they're so worried because the media, academia, Hollywood, and the woke mob is against them. They worry for their own public safety. That's why people, even Supreme Court justices, had tried to put all those three decisions together because they're worried about their own safety. They've been threatened. These people are actually, and you got local district attorneys that will not prosecute real crimes.
Well, that seems like that's a sin right there.
Well, you got people like George Soros and all these people that won't. In California, if you steal and rob somebody, it's under $1,000. That's a misdemeanor, and you don't go to jail or nothing, and you get taken. You get freed on your own cognizance. Can you believe that?
That's hard to believe.
Oh, that's what it is. We got to go back to the broken windows. Cleaned up New York in the 1990s. Rudy Giuliani. You got all the crime going up in all these cities, and you've emboldened criminal activity, and which will only keep certain groups, if you want to put it in that term, which I don't like, down. You got teachers unions who do not want a poor kid to have choice for their school. They want to keep their numbers up so that the union members can get more money and more dues. They don't care about the teachers. They don't care about the students. And they certainly don't care about the families and their upward mobility. What they care about is control. These Weingardens, people are the slime of the earth. So, what are you going to do? What we should do is have the tax dollar go to a child that follows the child. So a child born into poverty has so much dollars that then parents can choose where they want that kid to go to school. Then you'll have real integration. You'll solve this problem, and we'll have an educated workforce. Right now, half the kids born in this country are not white, okay? And they're all over. And there's only really one, if you want to go into that kind of thing, one group that is really excelling in the academic world from immigrants, and that's our friends from Asia.
That's right, Jim, because they're pretty smart.
Well, and they work hard. The average kid I read studies 122 minutes a day. A white kid about 80 minutes, Hispanic about 50 minutes, and a black child, unfortunately, about 30 minutes. That's no good. We got to get everybody up there.
The parents have to do a better job.
That's right. It's all about the parents. The parents, exactly, EW. And so we got to incentivize parents to stick together and the families. And I feel for a lot of those single women out there, some of the sisters that I've gone to the Lord with. Jim, who work really hard to care about their kids, but they're working really hard just to make ends meet. The problem is that 80% of these kids are born without a father in the home.
Well, that's the big problem right there.
That right there. And the welfare state had this design, and this is the problem. They don't have the sense of authority. They don't get the full upbringing of both parents. Where, in the Asian community, it's just the other way around. And that's really the big issue. If you look at how it correlates, the family that sticks together has much better outcomes. It's not about your DNA being smarter than one kid or another. We're all got incredible gifts. The potential of every young child from everywhere in the world is beyond our even comprehension. And so that's not the issue. The issue is getting people to get off this grievance mindset and to put everything they can into their children and their lives so they can self-actualize. That's what we do, and that's what we want to help people do.
They have to have good nutrition and good teaching when they're very young.
And a good outlet with hope. And one thing we can do for hope is to change our Social Security system so everybody that works knows that their money, they can see their money grow, not just be a consumption tax that some government bureaucrat can use for whatever they want in the general fund and just give you an IOU. No, that is a scam. What we're going to do is if people have their money, they can see it just like if they were on Charles Schwab or something, they can see it grow. They can see what their money's going to do. They can and it's going to become a wealth ownership society because everybody owns this country. The people own the country. The government workers here that were given the fiduciary responsibility to represent them are working for those people. We're the boss. The people are the boss.
Amen, Jim.
And you know what? And I would even propose and go a step further and give people a little bit of choice of where that money goes for the government. Just like you do, you get a choice of where to put your stocks and things like that. Just think if you had a choice of where that government money could go. And you could see what you did, what your tax dollars did to help such and such, just like that you can choose to crowdfund it. Well, let's crowdfund the U.S. government the way that people have somewhat of a choice and that discretionary spending comes from the people, the way the people decided to send that money. How about that idea? I bet you never heard that before, did you, people? But we have the technology to do that.
Nobody understands you, Jim.
Well, we're going to bring it down because you're going to have a choice of where your money goes. You're going to have a nice, wealthy retirement, and we're all going to work together. We're going to put this economy on the real track where we fund it internally and bring back the industrialization that we need so we're not dependent on certain regimes that do not have anybody's best interest in mind but their own. Now, so they have been too deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, right? and hold them, and we hold the rest of mankind enemies in war, in peace, friends. So if you're going to be in peace, we're your friends, but enemies if it's going to come to war. I'd say, given American might and where we're going to take this country under the power of bestowed in Tuscaloosa Jim and his entourage, that it's best to be friends in peace. Now, we, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these states, solemnly publish and declare that these United States are of right, ought to be free and independent states. And I might add, so shall the people. That they are absolved from all allegiance to any kind of attempt by cultural Marxism, communism, and people want to control the lives of the people, and that all political connection between them and these cultural Marxists who are out to destroy America and create a globalist one world government that they control where there is no freedom is and ought to be totally dissolved as we decouple from other countries that have nothing but designs on destroying America. And that as free and independent states and people, that we have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all the other acts and things which independent states and people may have of right do.
Well, Jim, it's the 4th of July. I think I hear fireworks out there.
They are coming
God.
everywhere. I fear the bombs exploding everywhere to give out the peace and the outcry of people that have had enough.
It's a new day, Jim.
Yes, it is. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge, EW, to each other and all of America, our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Honestly, that's good.
And I gotta tell you, man, I'm so happy that we are here today. Now let me tell you something, people, if you're tired, politicians always have an excuse, never take any personal responsibility or professional, never express solutions or a constructive fact-based or solution-based dialogue with you or anybody else, and are seeking other informed opinions that could be different than theirs, they don't do that, to get the best possible solution like we do in business to achieve success. If you're tired of that, I am too. If you're tired of politicians who continue manufacturing crises with no solutions and only look to the next one to justify their existence and pay, well, I am too tired of that. If you're tired of politicians who are elitist and above any kind of reproach from citizens or the law, who always act like they know more than you do, that they're your boss, and are the ones paying for the continued failures of any consent or material consequences for their failure, misconduct, or malfeasance. If you're tired of that, I am too. If you're tired of politicians who continue to explore ever more ways to spend your money, appropriate your money, all without any real accountability, especially federal ones who can print money and give it up to all their friends or their allies or political buddies in certain cities or states or countries even, to extort what they want in their own political agenda. If you're tired of that, I am too.
We're all tired of that, Jim.
If you're tired of politicians that treat real U.S. citizens in such disregard and place illegal immigrants, repeat criminals, and other quote-unquote victims of the victim card-based society ahead of you and your circumstance as a U.S. citizen, well, if you're tired of that, I am too.
Well, Jim, I think they're tired of us talking in here today because they really want to kick us out, Jim. I hear them knocking on the door. It's 4th of July.
They always want to kick us out. But you know what? I stand tall here. I know I'm on enemy side of the territory. I'm behind enemy lines out here on the left coast. They're all getting freaked out there. Maybe we'll take some calls.
Well, they'll let you talk later today, but they gotta serve lunch here at the church.
But if you're tired of politicians who constantly lie, fabricate stories that are so obviously patented false or nonsensical, and think you are so stupid as sheep that you will believe it, or will be forced via their forms of self-enforced censorship. If you're tired of that, well, so am I. So,
everybody's tired of that, Jim.
well, I tell you what, there are solutions out there. It's coming out in a book called A Meritocracy later this year. A fella's got every single solution. He went line by line. He'll save our country in terms of financial disregard. He'll save our citizens militarily. He'll bring back the soul, the spirit of people working together and seeing the light and bringing things that you haven't heard before. It's like the Beatles. When you've got a new record, a new sensation, we got to get to turn people on in a wave that can't be denied. It has to have a certain critical mass, CW. And so we got to get people here lined up who think along us.
They're lined up right now, Jim, right outside the church. They're knocking on the door.
Yeah, they're out there every 3 days a week. They want food. We got to get out of that. We got to get out. Yeah, compassion's a good thing. But the best compassion is to elevate your brother. Give them real opportunity, responsibility so they can create value, have meaning and purpose in their work, manifest their own life. It's the only way to live in America. Don't subjugate yourself to the free stuff crowd, the equal outcome crowd. Take a chance. You know, you go out there and you lay it on the line, and it ain't an easy thing to do. But you know what? When you do, and you feel God's grace, and that your brother really will be there, and you give everything you got, not only will you lead to a better life materially, but more important, you will know inside that you gave. And it's not what you get, it's not what you have, it's what you give. And you gave your all. And when you do that, it's funny, I tell you, W, all the good things sort of come to you. It's only the solution that's worked for me. You know, if you're down and out in the dumps, man, you've been having a really rough road of it, the best thing you can do is do a good deed and goodwill act for somebody else out of kindness with no expectation of reciprocity. It's the best thing you can do for your mind and your soul. When you are depressed or you give up hope, you generate that hope and it comes back to you manyfold. This is an old ancient secret that works. And I tell you what, it's what worked here in America and it's what's worked now. And now we as a people have transcended all these problems, these structural problems, how we built this whole country. And there were certain things that were awful what we did. But on the other track is we have this great experiment that was working successful. Life's complicated. Now we're all in parallel tracks. The only thing is now we got people who don't want you to have that freedom. They want you to continue being a victim. They want you to actually feel this bigotry that you can't do everything. Trust me, you can do anything your mind says. Don't worry. God created you the way you are. Celebrate that. Celebrate who you are, how you look, what you do, and go to the healthy mindset. Join us. Be of abundance consciousness.
Amen,
and
Jim.
love, not of poverty consciousness, hate, evil, and resentment. And one party politically espouses the former, and unfortunately, another party in power, espouses the latter. But be good to your spouse, and God bless this country.
God bless us, Jim. Thank you so much.
Yes. My spouse is American.